But don't come out of college thinking that you're going to start this thing and you're going to become.
someone.
And from a Sri Lankan perspective,
Yeah.
you're going to become a pick me.
Yeah.
Because I can
Yeah.
tell you, Jeffrey Zulfa from Pick Me,
Yeah.
he worked, he ran his own business, he worked again, and then he came up with the idea. He had 20 years of experience behind him before he started Pick Me.
Yeah.
He wasn't 21.
Sri Lanka Insurance Motor Plus, driven by you.
Hey guys, hello and welcome to another episode of The Hot Seat. Bless and I are here with Muffadal Lukmanjee, who is the CEO of Siberian. He's been in the IT sector for over 20 years, and we're going to pick his brain.
Yep, that's right. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, and thank you guys for having me.
Thanks so much for being on board. Now we're going to start off by asking you, if someone were to introduce you to a stranger, what's the ideal sentence, the one you're hoping for?
He's not a rock star.
Okay.
And he's someone you can be very open
Yeah.
and very open about and
Okay.
can talk to him about anything.
5 words to describe you, off the top of your head. 5
5
separate words.
Persevering, somewhat confident, I think.
That's 2 words.
Okay.
3 down.
Quite passionate, adventurous, and innovative.
Okay.
That's innovation is kind of good, given the fact that you are in the software business. You know, that is, I think, quite key. And prior to the show, we were talking about how you started out. You know, it wasn't a usual beginning where you leave school, you join the family business.
Yes.
I think your family had other plans for you to experience.
Yes. It's absolutely right, Blessy.
Yeah.
Actually, I had different perception of what life would be when I came back from college. When I came back from college, I thought I'd go straight in the family business, sit on a
Easy.
fancy chair,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and think life will be good.
Yeah.
But the first thing my dad told me when I got back to Sri Lanka was, you need to look for a job. But I said, I don't have a job.
Yeah.
Because you don't have a job, you need to look for a job.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, good
So-
one, Dad.
Yes, yeah,
When
I
was
didn't believe him at
Yeah.
first, but
See you Monday.
I mean, he was quite serious about it,
Okay.
and I did apply. And I've always enjoyed the tech space, so I did apply to a few tech companies, but I also tried to go mainstream and apply to banks and other conglomerates. But
Yeah.
I knew my heart was set on tech at the time, and yes, so I applied. I got a few job offers, and I can tell you that I was advised by my father to actually take the lowest paying job.
Yeah.
And the reason why that was because the others were probably a fifth or 5 times more in terms of salary.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have got that exposure. And he told me that it's not the salary at this point, it is the responsibility and the challenges you're going to get, which is going to shape you.
Yeah.
So that's essentially where I started.
It's not easy to have your own company, to start your own company. Nowadays, the trend is to, it's glamorous to be an entrepreneur. It's glamorous to be able to type up an application and submit it for angel investors. And I think that that's what a lot of people are trying to do now. That is the dream. Is this something that you did? How did you begin your own company? Was it a startup like your new traditional startup? What did you subscribe to as a beginning entrepreneur?
Sure. So the word startup is nothing new. It's just a very nice buzzword that people are using. Business have been starting up, since day dot.
Yeah.
People have been trading, and everyone that starts their own business, trading or service or otherwise, is essentially a startup. What has happened today is the word startup has become a fashion statement, and it's driving youngsters to try to achieve something without really looking at the big picture.
Right.
Yeah.
And the way my business partner and I, Sanjeevala, started Siberian was after working for companies for 7 or 8 years,
Yeah.
saving what we've earned. And it's easy to save when you come from a certain background, because you've got your house, you've got your food sorted.
Yeah.
So you're in a little better place than most, and you're privileged, and that's a blessing.
Speaking of startups, and you mentioned how any business is a startup. Anything you start is a startup. But in the tech industry, we're seeing a lot of kids, even kids that I know of, they finish high school, they've got an idea, and there is this thing where you've really not got much experience in the real world, and you come together, you come up with a solution, and you need money. and kind of some of these kids are selling their soul to get an investor on board. Is this the right path? I mean, as someone who's been through that cycle, what are your thoughts on this? Now, I know there's two trains of thought. Some people think that, hey, look, maybe you're too soon to welcome someone on board, you know, but tell us what you think, because you've been through that.
Great question, Lloyd. Actually, I've been on both sides of the spectrum. I've started a traditional company, which is a software company. It's disruptive, it's creative, and we're still building software, and we're 15 plus years on.
Yeah.
So stay away from the fanfare associated with startups. You may have a brilliant idea. You might be 21 years of age, and you've come out of college. You think you know it all, and you feel as if it's time for you to now, not work for somebody, but dive straight in. I've seen far too many failures.
Sorry to interrupt you, Muffadal. I think it's because we're sold that idea of the Mark Zuckerbergs. These guys who build billion-dollar businesses from their college dorm room.
Yes. And also not working for anybody else. The glamour of being like, I own my own business. This is my thing.
But
I have my own schedule. Yeah, it's not everybody that can carry that out or is going to be successful.
Yes, and that is exactly what it is. It is that glamour that they see with successful startups. But for every successful startup, as we know, hundreds and thousands of startups have failed.
Yeah.
So unless you're in that very small percentile of people that will succeed, to that degree, like Mark Zuckerberg, as you mentioned, you need to be very careful.
Right. So, really interesting point you raised there. Now, the fact that because there are people out there right now that are dying to have someone throw them a penny, But when you say, okay, it's kind of where things can go wrong. Tell us why and how.
It's a percentage game, Lloyd. And once again, I'm going to get a lot of slack for this, but it's a percentage game. Right. Investors, venture capitalists will not invest in one idea and hope to hell it succeeds. They will not do that. They will spread the risk. And if they've got a pool of 200 or 20 million rupees, they're going to put in a million each in 20 businesses if they can. And it's a percentage game. Some they know are going to fail, some may succeed, none may succeed. But the risk that they run is not detrimental to their futures or their businesses or their investments. This make no difference. However, to a young guy who has just started up, who has this dream about a startup, who has no or little fallback, it is 2 or 3 years that he invests in doing it. He struggles when the money starts running out because you need to raise again, and raising again is not going to be easy if your business is not off the ground, because first comes seed or pre-seed investment, then comes round A, B, C, D, and how many rounds you want to open up your investment rounds for. But when you get to round A or seed from pre-seed, it's a huge gap because you realize now that you've run out of cash, you can't pay yourself, you can't pay your salaries, you can't meet expenses, and the guys who invested in you, they're gone. They're gone. They're, the dream of mentoring them and guiding them, they're gone. They now moved to the next possible success. So I think that is something you need to be very, very, very careful about and think very, very hard before you take that path. And that's essentially where I've seen things falling apart. Of course, there have been successes. I won't say there aren't. But don't come out of college thinking that you're going to start this thing and you're going to become.
Someone.
And from a Sri Lankan perspective, you're going to become a pick me. Because I can tell you, Jeffrey Zulfa from Pick Me, he worked, he ran his own business, he worked again, and then he came up with the idea. He had 20 years of experience behind him before he started Pick Me. He wasn't 21. He was in his mid 30s. So, and this is where I think we need to really understand how success realized.
Golden advice, actually.
All right, so like you were saying, I think a lot of young people now, it's a no-brainer to want to get into software engineering, into tech, because that is obviously the future. It doesn't matter what field you're getting into. You could end up working for yourself, coming up with a great idea. And we've got some great tech programs here in Sri Lanka as well. We have a lot of huge multinationals outsourcing stuff to Sri Lanka. How close are we to a Bangalore or a Silicon Valley? Do you think that that is something that we could ever really establish in Sri Lanka? I know it's the dream, but reality?
Yes, we can, but we've got a lot of spade work to do because we're a very small country. I can tell you why I think we can succeed is because we've got the most brilliant set of programmers I have ever come across.
Really?
I've worked with Indian programmers, I've worked with Israeli programmers, and I find that to me, they're the Rolls Royce of software developers.
No way.
Okay, that's
Absolutely.
a lot.
And I think
That's a
coming
lot.
out of places like University of Moratuwa and Colombo and SLIIT, these places, the quality of programming knowledge that our guys have is phenomenal. So we have what it takes here. We just don't have the rest of the infrastructure. Our programs that initiate sort of disruption and product development is not sufficient. There's not enough money in it, and we don't really attract huge foreign venture capitalists because we can't scale in this country. So that's essentially where the point of failure is. A few companies will make it, and a few companies will be on the radar of these big venture capitalists. But for us to become a Bangalore or a Silicon Valley, I just think that our country is a little too small to reach that scale. But we can certainly build technology for companies that will establish themselves in the Bangalores and the Silicon Valleys of this world.
Well, before we go, I know that kind of how you ended this, that the worst piece of advice was kind of sharing something positive, what you learned. But if you were to give some advice to people out there right now, at the brink of starting up, trying to debate what is the right thing to do in the climate that we are going through right now in Sri Lanka, making business decisions, what is a good piece of advice that you could share with them right now?
So right now, your immediate piece of advice is just maintain stability because things are uncertain, as you know. So whatever you're doing right now, try to maintain stability, work hard, do your job. Don't try to be too inventive. This is not the time. Don't try to expand phenomenally unless you can. Unless you have a really, really massive reason to, don't do it. And just wait it out. Things will pass. Businesses have ups and downs all the time. Countries have ups and downs all the time. This is of no fault of anybody's. So just wait it out. Things will change. And when things change, you'll be prepared because you'll be stable. And when you're prepared, be calculated, be smart about it, and move slow. Move slow. Nothing is going to change, or no success is going to come from trying to explode in a matter of years. It's not going to happen. So just move slow, be patient, be honest, have integrity, and persevere. That's something I would instill in anyone if anyone was to ask me.
Hey guys, also be sure to like the video and share it in your groups, your WhatsApp circles, and we'll be back.
Sri Lanka Insurance Motor Plus, driven by you.